I'm Donna Chambers, and I'm the Executive Director of the Humboldt County Resource Conservation District. Our RCD is part of a large team of landowners and agencies that have been working for about the last 30 years to restore hydrologic function in the Salt River watershed. The Salt River watershed is part of the lower Eel River watershed that includes the Eel River Delta. The Salt River itself used to be one of the major shipping channels between the town of Ferndale and San Francisco, with small steamers making the trip up and down weekly. The Salt River used to be 200 feet wide and about 15 feet deep. Behind me, you can see how we're restoring the Salt River to close to its original width and some of its depth. Over the years, the effect of settlement activities took most of the trees out of the valley and increased the amount of sedimentation that was happening. The Wildcat Hills are extremely erosive, and they're made up of fine-grained silts and sands. They're essentially uplifted ocean floor because this is a very young area in a very dynamic space called the Triple Junction. So we have a lot of earthquakes, we have a high level of rainfall that happens here, and a number of landslides. This leads to a lot of sediment coming down our tributaries, and over time, this sediment has filled the Salt River Channel. The Salt River watershed is privately owned and actively in agricultural management. We have timber operators up in the Wildcat Hills, some beef cow operations, and here on the valley floor we have a lot of dairies. Many of them are organic pasture-based dairies. That means that for production, the cows need to be on the pasture as much as possible throughout the year. As the Salt River Channel's filled in, what's happened is that there's nowhere for the water to go, so it spreads out across the valley and ponds on pastures for 6 to 8 months out of a year. This has a huge economic impact on the producers in the valley. With the channel filled in, we've lost over 7 miles of fish passage and highly degraded habitat. We've also lost connection to 15 miles of tributaries for spawning and rearing in the upper watersheds. The Salt River Ecosystem Restoration Project has been developed over a long time with the input from a lot of different agencies, from many different agencies and landowners. We are taking a three-pronged approach with the project. We're treating the treatable sediment sources in the upslopes. About 80% of the sediment is natural background sediment, but we have about 20% that we can control through road upgrades, culvert upgrades, creating off-site watering for cattle, and fencing out of riparian zones. The second component of the project will restore over 5 miles of river channel and associated floodplain and diverse riparian corridor. The third component of the project is to restore almost 300 acres of tidal marsh near the mouth of the Salt River and the Eel River. This will increase the tidal prism substantially. We need to replace the tidal prism that was lost during reclamation out in the valley so that we can suspend the sediments and help them get flushed all the way through the system. The project has proved to be incredibly complex to try to restore key components of the hydrologic system to make sure that it functions. It's not possible to step back in time and restore the Salt River to its historic dimensions. So what we're doing is rehabilitating the channel and designing it in such a way that sediment will be managed along the floodplain and in key areas where we can actively control and remove the sediment into the future. One of the key components of the project is an adaptive management plan. This has been included in the project permits and will allow us to go in on an annual basis to clean out vegetation if it's interfering with the flow and to clean out sediment. This is a highly managed watershed, and it will remain highly managed into the future. It's been a balance between improving water quality, improving fish passage, reducing flooding on the ag lands, and the only way that we can keep all of those benefits in place is to continue to manage the system into the future. We feel proud that everyone has been able to come together to develop a project that restores critical fish habitat for coho, steelhead, and other important fish species, that will diversify a riparian canopy and provide better bird habitat, that will decrease flooding on pastures and improve ag productivity, which is one of the vital economic engines of the Humboldt County community, and that they're pledged to work together to monitor and maintain this project into the future.